Right.
Mic is live. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the ACA Small Business Bootcamp. On the main page, you'll find information about the sessions that are upcoming, and you probably went to that page to register for today's session. You can register for the upcoming sessions, and you can also go back and view the archive sessions. So all of our previous sessions have been recorded. Today's session will be recorded as well, and we post them on the archive. And you can go back and review any of the sessions, any of the materials that the presenter shared to help your business. So you can go back, review it anytime you want. If there's a particular session that you wanted to attend but couldn't, you can go back and watch it. It is available to you. Additionally, on that page, you'll find the link to our resource collective. And the resource collective provides tools and resources from our community partners to help small businesses. This is an example of some of the tools and resources, guides and resources that are available to small businesses to help them work through this COVID crisis. As you can see, there's information on construction, manufacturing, restaurants, barbershops, cosmetologists, etc. A lot of great information can be found. So to do a few quick updates, this week on Tuesday, all PPP lenders are able to start processing PPP loans on the PPP 2.0. We just had a great session yesterday, and that session is posted on our archive, going through the PPP program. We had some information from one of the lenders on applying to help people get ready and pull the materials needed to apply. We also talked about some of the other stimulus programs in that session. We also had the SBA on sharing information, so you can find that in the archive. Additionally, if you're looking for a PPP, here's the link to the Arizona PPP lender list put together by the Arizona District Office of the SBA. And additionally, I want to just mention 3 programs from the stimulus package that have been updated and are great programs. The Shuttered Venue Operator Grant Program, you can find information on it on our website, and we are also waiting for more information from the SBA on that program, but it's going to be a great opportunity for venues to get some needed support. The Employer Retention Credit, this is a great program. We talked about it yesterday in the boot camp, so if you're interested, you may want to go back and watch that, but there is a lot of potential tax credits that you can receive for your employees through that program. It's not a simple program, but the money can add up depending on your employee count. And then information just came out yesterday about the SBA debt relief program. And this is for those that have current SBA loans, micro loans, 7A loans, etc. There's some great support and relief for those. So you can check it out on the SBA website. Also, you can stay informed about other business resources and opportunities through our Arizona business resource page for COVID-19. You can find that at azcommerce.com/COVID-19. Real quick, we want to touch on some of the ACA small business services and other small business programs. So our small business services can help businesses navigate with the SBA, working with the small business development centers, or SCORE, local banking contacts as well, and other training and support. Our workforce division can help with businesses looking to hire additional employees or upskill some of their employees. They have programs for that. And then our Arizona MEP, Manufacturing Extension Partnership, works with all manufacturers throughout the state to help them grow and develop their business. Additionally, we have our small business checklist for those that are looking to start a new business or start a side gig or expand a product line. The checklist is an interactive guide that helps businesses identify the licensing, registration, and compliance needs at all the federal, state, or the local, state, and federal levels. It's a very in-depth and complete checklist. Just a quick reminder for the state's COVID-19 information and resource page. This is beyond just business resources, but all resources for COVID-19, arizonatogether.org. And then last is the review of the upcoming sessions. Today's session is with Chris Ronzio, rebuilding a better business for 2021. We're really looking forward to Chris's words. And then next week we have a presentation with Yelp and reputation management. We're really excited about that. And then we're gonna have an update on PPP loan forgiveness next week. We will touch on the loans as well, but we're gonna focus a little more on loan forgiveness for those that got the first rounds of PPP. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and turn the time over to Chris, and it's all yours.
All right. Well, as I get my screen sharing here, first of all, I want to say thank you to having me back. This is my third time here. So Robert, Lisa, Faith, I really appreciate everything that you're doing for the community. This is really great content. And for everyone else, if you heard me in the spring last year or the fall, thanks for showing up again. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you. So if you don't know me, my name is Chris Ronzio. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Trainual. Trainual, like a training manual, helps small businesses onboard and train their employees on all their policies, procedures, and best practices. So we've got over 5,000 small businesses, 100,000 people in over 130 countries at this point. We're so proud to be built, started, supported here in Arizona. So I wore my Valley swag to represent the state, but super proud to be here. So at the end of the presentation, any questions that you have, please use the Q&A throughout, and we'll save some time at the end to cover anything you want, whether it's related to this presentation, anything to do with small business, scaling your teams, managing people, whatever you want to talk about, I'm here to help. But for today, for right now, we're going to talk about scaling back up. And specifically at this time in the year, a lot of people are doing their annual planning. They're thinking ahead for the rest of the year. And so you may be, off the holiday buzz and you're just starting to get the wheels going again and thinking, how can our business be better this year than it was last year with everything that we went through? So right before I jumped on this call, literally like 3 minutes before we went live, I logged into our Facebook ad account and pulled a screenshot of this ad that we're running. So I know I don't think the chat's open right now, but if you're listening to this, I'm curious how many skiers there are out there. Maybe raise your hand. I can't see you. I assume there's some skiers out there. So if you've ever been skiing, socially distanced outside, if you've been up to snowball or anything recently, you've probably had this feeling where you're going so fast down the mountain that you feel like if you hit a bump or if you hit a twig or if you turn the wrong way, you're just gonna fall on your face. I'm not a great skier, and this ad is actually poking fun at that. And we're talking about, skiing without training. And so this is me falling down if you see this on Facebook. But the idea of going down a mountain so fast and then falling down, it's like you're so nervous to fall. But once you actually fall and you're laying there and you're in the snow and the worst has already happened to you and you're just looking at the sky, you almost have this sense of relief. Like everything bad just happened. And now where do I go from here? I get back up, go back down the mountain. And so that's kind of what I want to start you thinking off with is like, as we come off 2020, it's like we just all fell down the biggest mountain that the biggest ski resort that's ever existed. And now we're just kind of laying there in the snow and thinking, how do we get up and how do we move forward? So I shared this picture last time I did the presentation, but this was a really cool image that my brother took when he was out on the Big Island in Hawaii. And if you've been there, you've probably seen the opposite of snow, these lava fields, just black rock everywhere. And if you look in some of the fields, you see that the grass is starting to grow out of the lava rock. And it's the same kind of analogy. Like after this mass destruction, the new growth starts to happen. And so that's the frame of mind that we're in right now. That's where I've been in. Hopefully that's where you're in, is how do we turn this negative into a positive? How do we build better businesses than we even had before and come back stronger? So that's what today is going to be about. As the famous Chumbawamba once said, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. So now that's going to be in your head all day. You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to go through top 5 tips for you to put yourself in this frame of mind to rebuild your business and to come back stronger. First one, finding your best product or service. I am sure a lot of you have over the years accumulated tons of different products and services that you offer. You built the business maybe doing something really narrow, and then one customer said, hey, do you mind helping with this? And you said, will you pay me money for that thing? And they said, yeah, of course. And you said, then yes, I do that thing as well. That happened to me in my first business, which was a video production company. I'll talk more about that later, but I started off by doing music videos, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, weddings, grandpa's 80th birthday party, the soccer games at school, the talent shows, TV shows, commercials, corporate videos. It was like anything that you could push play on, we would produce. But that's not the best place for your business to end up. And so this tip number 1 is about how do you sift through all of the things that you offer to locate your best product or service, the things you actually want to do. How do you trim back a little bit? So last year, I participated in this innovation competition with the Business Journal and BBVA, and was fortunate to win one of those big checks. And it was the first time in my life I've ever gotten like some kind of grant money that was a big check like that. I felt like Happy Gilmore. And so for the next day, I was, across Instagram, just like taking this check through my life with me, going for runs with it, sticking it in the car or whatever. But the metaphor there, the idea of the largest check, is something I want you to think about as we go through this exercise. So 6 years ago or so, a guy, Dan Sullivan, that runs this program, Strategic Coach. If you haven't heard of him or Strategic Coach, look it up. Tons of great content, podcast content. He came up with this exercise called the largest check. And similar, it's not at all my large check that I was carrying around with me, but in your business, when you think about the checks that people write you. So for any of you that are selling a product or a service, what I want you to think about is if someone pre-ordered for the year, or if at the end of the year you invoice them for everything you did for them for the year, what would they have paid you? What is their one check for the year? So the way you do this exercise, and you can take a screenshot or of course download this later, you build a very simple spreadsheet here and you list out all of your clients in one column. If you use a program like QuickBooks, you can actually just export all of your revenue by customer. And it's a pretty simple report that you can run. So you want all of your customers on the left-hand side. And next to that, you want the revenue per client, the total amount of that largest check that they wrote you. Now, what you do once you've got all of that listed out is you look across your top 5 and you average all of those top 5 out. And it tells you what your current largest check is. So in your business, there is a threshold of comfort that you are at for what you can sell to your customers. And if you look at your top 5 customers and maybe throw away if there's any big outlier at the very top, if one customer is your whole business, maybe throw them away and look at the next 5 and think about, what am I comfortable with getting customers to pay my business? And so for some of you, if you have a retail store, this might be just your average price per transaction, that people check out with. If it's a restaurant, maybe it's your average ticket, when a family comes in. If you're a services business, maybe the amount is a lot higher. But what it does is it shows you what your comfort level is for charging at this current point in your business. So the next step in the exercise is to pick your next largest check. When you do this exercise in 12 months, what will the new amount be when you average your top 5? And it really pushes you to think about, how can we get more revenue from our existing customers or the types of customers that we're already getting? Or what new things would I have to do in order to push the envelope and to make more money or more profit from those customers? So you pick your next largest check. And then you pick your dream check. And I love this one because this is in the same way that you may have that outlier customer or client that shops at your store all the time or eats at your restaurant every day or buys every service that you offer. What would your next big VIP client or customer pay? And you come up with that amount right there. So you go through again, like I said, and you figure out your current largest, the average of your top 5, your next largest, if you do this next year, and then what you want to achieve as your dream check for next year. Now, this is really simple planning, but what it forces you to do is start to think through, what do I have to do to make that happen? And so for me, this is when I was starting part-time consulting. I was still running my video company, and I started to think through what kind of changes could I make to my consulting business to really start to ramp this up. And so for me, it was hiring someone for the smaller engagements, the things that I don't need to be a part of. For my monthly plans, it was increasing that monthly retainer amount, requiring 3 to 6 month commitments, defining what a 25K estimate would even be. I had never even sent out a proposal for that amount. So I've got to figure out what would that even look like, and then build some web assets that produce more money. So that was for me, my planning. And I'd love you to do the same for your business, to think about, where am I at today? Where do I want to be at next year? And then what are some ideas? What are some things we can work on this year? And then what's real fun is when you start doing this year over year, you make a new tab the next year in the spreadsheet and a new tab the next year. And then you can look back and see what you've accomplished and how you actually hit that next largest check or that dream check, like I did. The next exercise that relates to kind of curating your products and services is figuring out who are your best clients. And this is something, again, all of you can do right now as we're talking about it, or you can do right after the call. But when you think about your customers, you have a couple different categories. You've got the people that are easy to work with. You've got the people that are just your raving fans, and you've got the people that are actually most profitable. Now, the sweet spot is, of course, right there in the center. But as you evaluate your customers, what you're probably going to notice is that there's a bucket of customers that you just love working with. They're super easy to work with. There's a bucket of customers that you're just producing great results for. And then there's another bucket that are the most profitable types of people. And if you're only overlapping in one or two of these buckets, then they're not your ideal customer. So for instance, if someone is really easy to work with and you produced an amazing result for them, but they're not really profitable for you, then that's really like a volunteer customer or a pro bono or a hobby type thing. Maybe you love doing it, but if you did that all day, you'd go out of business. If someone's really easy to work with and they're profitable, but you're not producing the best results for them, then that's just going to be a one-time customer. Like, you just kind of took advantage of them and made a ton of money, but if they didn't get a good result, they're not coming back. And then if someone is just really profitable for you and you're producing great results, but you hate working with them, it stresses you out, that's the type of customer that just keeps you up at night, that you don't want to deal with. And so for your business, what I would suggest is start by brainstorming your top 5 separately in each of these categories. If you have any customers that fall into the overlapping boxes, then next move into that phase. But ideally, what you're trying to get to is who's right in the middle. Who am I producing an amazing result for? They're easy to work with and we're profitable. It's like a win-win-win. And if you can define that type of customer for your business, you start to put on blinders to only want to look for that type of customer. And it helps to filter out the other people. So for my business, my consulting business, when I did this, it really helped me to create screening for the types of clients I would work with. I'd have them fill out a form where I was screening out, are they the type that I could produce the result for? Are they willing to pay what I need to charge? And are they willing to operate on my schedule where they're not going to be texting me at all hours of the day? And I figured that out through the form and the intake conversation, and over time got much better customers. So think about that for your business. And then the next exercise you can do here is to decide who you're gonna serve based on the trends in the market. So when we went through this last year, we were talking about the different trends that happen because of COVID. So there's remote workforce, social distancing, on-demand services that people kind of expect, being health conscious, developing connections in the community when we're all kind of isolated. And you'd think through, which of my products or services are catching the tailwinds or catching the headwinds, like thumbs up or thumbs down on the trends that are happening in the market right now. So this one may be at the end. If anyone has a business that you want to go back and forth about, we can talk about individually for you. But for your business, there's going to be probably different trends that are happening in the market. This is just a great exercise, something we do at Trainual to figure out what products and services are we going to work on this year based on the trends in the industry. So again, number one was all about refining your products and services, slimming down the menu of what you offer. Okay, on to tip number two here. Focus hard on a niche. I say niche. Maybe some of you say niche, but I am not that fancy. So I say niche. This is me again in my video production company. I don't know how old I was here, 20 or so. I started the company when I was 14, but I was right now directing a national figure skating championship for a online NBC broadcast. And so we did in my video company all of the figure skating events up to the Olympic qualifiers, and then the stuff that would be on NBC what's the time, the best time of the day, I forget what that's called. The trucks would come in and they would take over, but it wasn't always that way. Like I said at the beginning, we started off by doing everything under the sun, all different types of video, and it took time before we actually narrowed down and picked a niche. So not just a type of video, a type of service, but a niche. And for us, figure skating was the big one. So why I picked figure skating, and I'm going to share this example in hopes that you can go through the same thought process for your own business. First thing, it was expensive to participate in. So the people that would sign their kids up for figure skating would pay hundreds of dollars an hour for ice time or for coaches. They would, pay thousands of dollars for their costumes. And so when they invest all that money into an event, that's something you really want to memorialize and buy a DVD for. Whereas if it was, the game that happens every 2 days, you don't want the archive of those videos as much. Next, there was existing competition that just wasn't innovating. I went to check out the events and saw what a figure skating video looked like. And it was, people doing VHS tapes and just Sharpies and writing on the spines, if anybody remembers VHS tapes. And I thought, wow, there's no one putting pressure on them to innovate. We can really win here. Next, there were infrequent occasions. So similarly, like I said, it's not a weekly game. It's a big championship. It's something you really want to remember. And it was hard to do it yourself from the stands. When I built this business, we had over-the-shoulder cameras and people weren't carrying those around to go see their kids participate. It was way before the iPhone and HD video in your pocket. It was something that you really couldn't do yourself, but we could offer it. And so thinking through those things, like there was a very intentional strategy on why we picked the niche that we did. And by picking it, we got so much more successful because people were able to refer us much easier. So I want to share this example. This is a wall in my house that we did with shiplap. My wife is like a huge Joanna Gaines, Chip Gaines, whatever, I forget their show, but that thing. And so for years, all she wanted was a shiplap wall. And so finally we were like, okay, let's do the shiplap wall. She started asking her friends, and one of her friends told her, oh, there's this guy that all he does is shiplap. Like he did my friend's house, he did my house, he did my neighbor's house. You should call him. So we call this guy, and he's got like a 5-week lead time because he is just booked like every day, every weekend doing shiplap walls. And he does them really simple with just the board, white paint, the boards, a nail gun, and just comes in and knocks it out. And so the lesson here is really that the riches are in the niches. You probably heard that before. But if you can specialize, if you can do just one thing for one type of customer in one industry, it makes you way easier to refer. When my wife started talking about it, her friend didn't hesitate. It was like, you've got to call Dan. He's the shiplap guy. He lives across the valley, but he just bounces around from house to house. This is all he does. He's the guy. You want to be that for your customers. Next, it's easier to target your customers. Like if all you do is shiplap and you're trying to run ads or something to customers, or you put up flyers or whatever, it's really hard when you have such limited attention to say, here's all the things we do. I remember my video company, my first business card had 15 things listed on the back cover, it was like, the bullet points of everything, weddings and bar mitzvahs and commercials and corporate videos and video montages and more. And my friends used to tease me about like, what is and more? What else is there that you do? But if you've got just your ad that's like, we do shiplap for walls in houses in this zip code, it's like, oh, got it. That's who I'm gonna buy from. Next, it's easier to find partners. So again, this guy wasn't doing all the other things. And so when the painting company needs someone to refer to do shiplap, why would they refer someone else that also does painting? That's not going to happen. But when they find a specialist, it's not going to cannibalize their own business. So they're more happy to refer you. And that happens when you specialize. It's easier to attract employees that have a specific interest. Like if you are the huge Joanna Gaines, Chip Gaines fan, and you're also obsessed with shiplap like my wife, then maybe you want to work for that company. It's easier to attract that type of person. So think about in your business, how do we pick a niche? How do we specialize to get deeper with what we do? All right. Tip number 3, your biggest asset is the work you've already done. Your biggest asset is the work you've already done. Another story here. So when COVID first went down, I had all of these trips booked. I was the week the world kind of shut down last March. I was going to Australia for 10 days, London for 5 days. And I had booked all of this travel with American Express points. And that's just something I've done in the past. I rack up the points, I use it for travel. And so for all of last year, I had these points that were building up to levels that I had never experienced before. And I had no idea what to do with the points. And so one time I logged into the Amex website and there was this big button that was like, go shopping, use your rewards. And so I bought this like stupid Segway thing that my whole neighbors, they all make fun of me. I go back and forth to the park with my kids, but it's something I wanted for so long. Like I'd see people on those Segway tours and like someday I'm going to have one of those. And finally I cashed in. And what was really cool is that it was like I had this hidden bank account that I didn't even realize I had. I wasn't thinking about the value of the Amex points. I wasn't thinking about what I could get out of them. It was just sort of building over time. Now, in your business, the work you've done in the past is like that hidden bank account. It's the stuff that's built over time. It's your reputation. It's your relationship. So how do you tap in to that bank account and make it work for you in 2021? Well, one of the things that I used to do in my consulting business is I would ask people for testimonials, recommendations on LinkedIn. And over time, I had accrued all of these recommendations on LinkedIn. And so at one time I had a prospect that asked me like, hey, can you send me over any sort of, past examples of happy customers? And so I was just thinking, who do I reach out to? And then I realized I've got all of these testimonials just in a bank on LinkedIn. Let me just make a document out of it. And so I made a PDF document where I just took everybody's headshot and what they had said about me. Now, you probably have this. If not on LinkedIn, maybe it's on Yelp. Maybe it's on Google reviews or Facebook reviews. Maybe it's in an email that somebody has already sent you to say thanks for the job that you did, or on a call that someone gave you. And it's very easy for you to just ask that person, do you mind if I use this? Do you mind if I share this? And you too can have this bank, this asset of testimonials and reviews that you can use to go out and get more customers. With Trainual, we've noticed that this has been one of the best things that builds authority and shows that we actually deliver on what we say in our ads. So if you see any of our Facebook ads, you will always see somebody sharing a story or a quote or a 5-star review, because it goes such a long way to getting new customers. In fact, we started taking screenshots of our, things that people would say on Twitter, even. Like, this is just a tweet that somebody said on Twitter. We just screenshotted that and made it into an Instagram ad that we run. And so we do this all the time, just repurposing things that people say and using that as bait to get us new business. So think about how you can do that too. Then the last piece is case studies. So if you have a customer, maybe that you did a deeper kind of job for, a project for, and they pay you a bigger check, it's not a very transactional thing, then you can have that customer, you can ask them, will you just record a quick case study for us? Or can we make a blog post? Or can we feature you in our newsletter? And again, it's this just positive reinforcement that's showing the value you've delivered in the past. It's an asset for you to go out and get new customers. All right, 2 more to go. So tip number 4 is building a repeatable process. Build repeatable process. Again, my first business, my video production companies, weddings were not so repeatable. They were very customized. Every time we did one, it was kind of like, we hope this is the only time we have this customer. Maybe you'll get married one more time. I don't know. Keep our business card. But it was kind of like a one and done thing. And every single wedding video we did was customized for that customer. It had their own choice of music, their own style, their own graphic design on the cover, their own little animations. And so it was a real labor of love at the beginning, because I was the editor and really enjoyed putting the time into it. But over time, you can't really scale that sort of creativity, that sort of customization. And so the video production evolved, like I said, into figure skating, but more specifically, it evolved into a process. Like, we would show up to an event and we had it dialed in so that everything was being live edited, run through a hardware to encode live onto someone else's computer, where we hit in points and outputted those files onto flash, like little USB drives that people walked out of the building with. And when we had that process dialed in, it really didn't matter what was happening on the ice. It mattered that we had a process for how to record it, how to edit it, and how to deliver it really efficiently, really quickly. In fact, we started doing away with all of our animations, all of our graphic design, all of our even text on the screen. I don't know if you've ever watched a video that's 10 years old or 15 years old, like a news clip, and thought, wow, that looks so old. Like the font and the animations, it looks so old. We had that insight that when people look back on these memories, the stuff we think is cool today is just going to look old. So why are we even doing it? Let's just give people the raw video. That's really what they want. They can do whatever they want with it. And that insight and this process is what really helped my business to grow. So think about how you can add more process to your company. Now, I said customized doesn't scale, but customization with a systematized process does scale. There are businesses like this, like Cold Stone, that are built around customization, and yet it's a process. They've figured out how to let you choose from a menu, how to kind of have that assembly line experience and still come out with a semi-customized result. But they're not making pizzas. You know, this is like it's refined to a specific type of treat or dessert, and a specific process for how you go through that, and a specific couple choices for the size and the vehicle or whatever that you want to get the dessert in. So again, I'm not saying no customization. I'm saying customization within limits. So think about how can you streamline what you do and add some process to what you do, and limit the choices so that it's just easier to fulfill on what you do. To make a step-by-step process in your business, it's pretty simple. You know, you can use the old-fashioned method, which I used to do with clients, of just Post-it notes. Grab a bunch of Post-it notes or index cards, or if you're virtual right now and you're trying to do this online, there's a great tool we use called Miro, M-I-R-O. It's like a virtual whiteboarding tool. And you're just going to put blocks, you know, this first, then this, then this. You're making a workflow. And by doing that collaboratively with people, you're getting some consensus around what is our process. If you're more dialed in and you really want to get granular with your steps and training, that's of course what our system does. So you can check that out. But have a step-by-step process for what you do. Like I said, it was the only reason that I was able to go from 14-year-old video producer to into having a company with 300 camera operators. So at the beginning, I was the camera operator. I was the editor. I was doing the job. Now, I worked with other companies in my consulting, where they too started as doing the job and were able to hand that off. I also had one client that he bought a business and never knew how to do the thing. It was a roofing business, and he himself didn't even know how to lay down roof, but he bought this business and was instantly not captive, not stuck doing the thing, because he bought an existing business with people to do the thing. But if in your business, you are still doing the thing and you need to escape and train someone else how to do it, that's when you need process. That's when you want to invest in process. Okay. So how do you know when to outsource versus hire? You may be in a cash constrained type position where maybe it's just you or just you and a couple people, or maybe you've had to make cuts in the last year and you're not sure when is the right time to start to bring other people on again. So this is a question that I hear all the time, is like, how do I know? When do I outsource? When do I hire? Is there some magical formula for my business? So let's talk through it. At the beginning of a business, I wish we had the chat going, but I'm curious if anybody is just a solo operator, if the business is you, it's a business of one. But a lot of times that's how businesses start. It's you, and it's you doing everything. So when you slim down you narrow your own responsibilities in the business, it's because you have delegated or you've handed off certain tasks. And so the first step, the easiest step for you, if you're just at the beginning of this process, is to get yourself a non-dedicated virtual assistant. What I mean by this is that there are services where you're basically requesting a task of a group of people, and you don't know necessarily who is going to raise their hand and take that task. And it doesn't necessarily matter because you're really just trying to get this thing off your plate. There's a service I used for years called Fancy Hands, crazy name, Fancy Hands, but there are thousands of people that are vetted and trained and qualified, and they use a system where you submit your request, someone in the background grabs that request, and then they fulfill on that request. And they get better and better by your rankings. But this is a non-dedicated virtual assistant because they work with tons of people, not just you. Now, those services can start as cheap as like $20 a month. So there is really no excuse to not start taking some things off your plate. If it's just you by yourself, step one, get a non-dedicated virtual assistant. Step two is get a dedicated virtual assistant. Now, the difference here is that you've got one person that you work with every time. And so they start to develop some efficiency. If you're just doling out random tasks, then maybe a non-dedicated person is fine. But if you're trying to hand off a consistent responsibility, like I want you to be the one that processes all of the requests that come through our web form, that's something that you don't want a different person doing every time. You really start to get efficiency by the same person doing it, but they could be anywhere in the world. They don't need to be working in your office, and they don't need to be full time. So find yourself a dedicated virtual assistant so that you can start to develop a relationship with that person. Now, these might cost a couple $100 a month up to a few $1,000s a month, but you can find someone that gets to know your preferences. Next step would be you plus part-time. So if you are at the point where you can't just rely on even a dedicated person remotely, but you need someone locally, like I see there's a Thai massage person. Hey Tammy, maybe you can't have remote Thai massages, although that would be like a really cool experience. I think you can't really do that, right? And so you're in a business where you need to have people in person. And so your first step would be, let me find a part-time person that can start to take Fridays, so I don't have to work Fridays, or that can start to take new customers and I can maintain my existing customers. It increases your capacity in the business. Like my mom, for instance, is an esthetician. She does facials and waxing and laser, and she just started part-time, a couple hours a week, for a solo person that had built up a practice, an aesthetics practice, and finally wanted to take Saturdays off and Wednesdays off and not be working 70 hours a week. And so there are a lot of people that want to step into that part-time role, and it's a great place to start if you are the 70-hour-a-week person. And then finally, you plus full-time. Once you have enough work in your business that you can afford putting someone full-time, and they work, they have enough capacity to start to get to full-time hours, then you finally can step out of that role, or you can start thinking about hiring the next person, hiring the next VA or the next part-time person. And that's how you replicate over time and add more people to the business. It starts with you. Little by little, you're taking things off your plate, and then you replicate that process and you bring more people in. So I know easier said than done, but hopefully this little triangle breaks it down in a consumable way. All right. The last thing I want to leave you with here is that COVID probably forced some changes in your business. And for a lot of us, if we didn't have the disruption of the last year, and what will continue to be disruptive over the next few years, probably, we might not have made any changes. So sometimes the market forces you to make some changes. And so again, if you can kind of just understand that and realize that you have the opportunity here to move fast, to reinvent yourself, and to do something that your competitors are too slow to do, then you get to take the lead in the market. And that is such an important point that I want everybody to really take inside deeply, is that like everybody had to deal with this. And so if your industry is hit hard, all of your competitors are hit hard. And all of them are probably, whining about it, but you're here on a webinar to try to figure out how to rebuild. And so you instantly rise up the leaderboard because you're putting in the reps when other people are just complaining. And so the fact that you're here and we're having this conversation is a great thing. And just think, the world forced these changes. You might not have made these changes, but now you can be better as a result of them. So just a refresher here. Tip number 1 was all about selling less. Simpler is easier to scale. So think about your products and services, think about your ideal customer, do the largest check exercise and figure out like what is the thing that we offer that we can really ramp up. Next, go deep, not wide. Pick your niche. Think about the shiplap example and how easy it is to refer that person and how easy it is to find partners and how efficient you get by doing the same thing over and over. Next, cash in your points, metaphorically. Maybe not, maybe literally. If you have tons of Amex points as well, we can do a Segway race or something. But cash those points in, cash that value in of all the work you've done in the past. Ask for testimonials, ask for reviews, create case studies, use those as ads and collateral to go get new customers. Next tip, number 4, build a process so you don't have to do the thing forever. If you have a process that's repeatable, step by step with your Post-it notes or a system like ours, you can hand it off to someone else. And then finally, scale up your team. So if you want to build a business, you need other people. I feel really passionate about that. You can build a great solo job for yourself. And if that's all you ever want to do, that's totally fine. But if you really want to build up a business, you need to employ other people and have other people doing work to leverage their time. So you're not just burdened 100% to carry the load of the business. So with that, I'll wrap this up and we can open it up for questions for the last 15 minutes here, but please reach out to me on social, on any of this. I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram, just at Chris Ronzio, or you can text me using that number. It goes through a service and goes right to my phone. So I'd love to hear from you, but thank you so much for being here. And I'd love to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Chris. That was awesome. Folks, if you want to ask Chris a question, please go ahead and put that in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And while we're waiting for some folks to do that, Chris, I have a question. I know a business and they have the potential to scale and do a little bit more, but they're afraid to hire somebody because they're afraid that person might see the profitability in their business model and steal it and start doing it on their own. So what's a way to get around that?
That's really interesting. So, I mean, I guess my first thought is you go to like a scarcity versus abundance mode, So first of all, if your business is so profitable that you're tripping over profits and cash, then it's only a matter of time before competition starts to come up. And if you think about it, like, I'm happy to hire people and be their training ground. They're going to produce value for me over the next couple years. We have a non-solicitation agreement, so they're not going to sell my clients directly. But maybe that's a good thing for you, that your industry is expanding and you've got this, you could get flooded with talent that is affordable because you're a training ground. So first, think about it that way. If you're worried that people will see the profitability in your business and resent you for it, then I would start to think about, like, do you pay them fairly? Do you pay them enough? And if it's the type of person that is paid above market wage, great benefits, you treat them right, it's an awesome culture and an awesome place to work, and they still want to go start their own business, then that's an entrepreneur, not an employee. It's a different type of person. And so not everyone is going to work in a business and want to take on starting their own. So I would think about it, try to think about it more from an abundance mindset.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, folks, if you have questions, please drop those in the Q&A box. We got lots of time that we can ask Chris some key things. Another question, Chris. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, if anyone out there just wants to chat about your business and what challenges you're thinking about to scale up for this year, like just you can hop on, and if it's hard for you to formulate it into a question, just hop on video and we can talk about your business.
Yeah, if you want to talk instead of typing it in, put a message in the chat, and we can open up your mic and let you chat. We had a question from CJ in here, Chris, and it says, can you go into more detail on good tasks for virtual assistants?
Yeah, sure. So CJ, could you maybe answer, and just so what kind of business you're in, just so I can specialize this to you? While you're doing that, just more broadly, when you first get a virtual assistant, the easiest things to delegate to them are going to be research type tasks. So, compare these 3 products and tell me which one is the best one to buy, or go find prospective customers that meet these criteria that I could reach out to and start a conversation with. Let's see, you say educator, writer, manage a couple of angel investments. Perfect. So if you had a virtual assistant, maybe, no, it definitely apply. You said it might not apply. So if you had a virtual assistant, how can they help you manage your angel investments? How can they check in with the companies you invest with on a routine schedule, first Monday of every month, to book you? Can they book you meetings and do scheduling for you? Can you forward them emails of things that, like a spreadsheet that needs to be compiled, any of those like data entry tasks, anything that's related to research, to spreadsheets, that's such an easy thing to offload. And even on the personal side, when I first got started, I would have my virtual assistant book me haircut appointments and doctor appointments, and wait online with my insurance person until they answered, and then dial me into the call. So it's really like the stuff that you think, man, anyone could send this email or anyone could make this phone call. Why am I doing it? That's the easiest place to start.
So Chris, to tie in with that, where's the best place to find a trusted virtual assistant, or from what you found?
There are so many marketplaces out there now. Upwork is an easy one to look through. If we have a list of them on Trainual's website, because we get asked this a lot, but because we have 50 employees now, we don't have virtual assistants. So if you ping me after this, I'll send you the list of different ones that we have that we recommend.
Excellent. Right, and Brandon asked a question, could you review the 3 circles again? Brandon, go ahead and jot in the question a little bit more details on what you're looking at for the 3 circles, or a little more detailed questions on the 3 circles.
Yeah, so I'll pull this up just for context, but this is an awesome exercise to do for your business, to think about which past customers would fit into these 3 buckets. Who are the easiest customers to work with, the ones that are just so low maintenance? Who are the best results, the ones that you are most proud of the end product for them, or they've been your biggest fans? And then what are the most profitable customers? So the goal, follow-up question from Brandon, the goal for the overlap is that you get customers that meet all 3 of these criteria. You want people that you produce great results for, and at the same time, you make a great profit margin, and you just enjoy the working relationship. Like, that is the trifecta that produces an amazing customer. But the reality for most of our businesses is that we get stuck somewhere. Like, they're either a best result, but they were just a super hassle to work with, and we hardly broke even on the client, and maybe that for you is like your first customer ever, and you're not trying to make a profit, and you're willing to deal with bad customers, but you just need that best result as a case study. And that can happen too. But ideally, as your business matures, you want people that are in this sweet spot, and you can start to define the attributes of, well, what made them the best, the easiest to work with. And let's put those rules of engagement on our forms or on our slides. Like, I worked with an ad agency, first of all, for example, that they would have clients that were just hitting them up at all times of day, with random ideas, texting them. And they had to actually build into their client kickoff presentation that here's how we operate. We work during these business hours. We communicate through these channels. We update you on this schedule. And it made their working relationship with new customers way easier because they identified what made some customers easy versus some customers harder. Hope that helps.
Excellent, great response on that. Going back to the first point that you brought up, the first principle, what if we get pushback when wanting to raise our prices, or we're nervous that we're going to get pushback or lose clients if we raise our prices?
It's always a concern, and you can always change your prices back. So you can be afraid and never do it. But what I would say is that you're probably more afraid than you should be. Usually you increase pricing because you have, it's a supply and demand thing. So as your customers start to fill up your capacity, you could either buy more capacity, more supply, or you can meter demand by raising prices. So for most small businesses, if you haven't pulled that pricing lever, you should do that before you're going out to hire more people. Because if you can get more, if your customers are willing to pay more for the stuff you're already doing, you might as well maximize your profitability before you go out and keep hiring. If you go out and hire this whole army and you've got a bunch of people working for minimum wage, then that's a system that's more likely to break. And so I would just recommend once your capacity is starting to get filled, raise your prices even a little. Like last August, we raised our prices about 20% for our software and didn't have a single change to our conversion rates, to our, customers didn't even flinch, didn't mention it. That was for new customers, but they were just discovering us and had no idea what the old pricing was. So I believe that there's if you have a service or a product that people are really liking, you probably have some elasticity to raise your prices.
Excellent. And then Sean put in here, says, on the 3 circles, where does your niche in-house expertise type of work fit?
Everywhere. There's like a big circle on the outside here that is, think of it if it was 3-dimensional, your whole business is like this wide circle at the top of the funnel, and the narrower the whole circle gets means that you're working within a niche. And so like if you could serve the entire world, I wish I could actually, let me see if I can annotate. I'll try to get fancy here. Here we go. Draw. Perfect. All right. Ooh, there's circles. Here we go. So if this is your whole business, right? Let's say this is the whole world. You could serve anybody in the whole world by offering any product or service. You're like almost Amazon. You could slim down a little bit and say, well, let's not serve the whole world with our products or services. Let's only offer some things. And so as you offer fewer products and services and you offer fewer and you work within a niche, what you're doing is you're shrinking your total addressable market. You're shrinking your market size. And then within the market of all of your potential customers, that's where you're going to have some that you deliver the best results, that are easiest to work with, that are most profitable. And what that's doing is it's shrinking down until you get to this sweet spot. The reality for most small businesses is that we think we need to offer everything for everyone in order to make ends meet. And that's so far from the truth. If you want to build a successful small business, and I'm talking, whether it's 5 of you or 500 of you, still a small business, you can be very specific, very narrow. One of my customers was that I did consulting with, hundreds of employees, massive warehouse, thousands of square feet. All they made was like the hoses, these little tiny hoses that pest control companies buy to spray their products. And so think about how narrow that is of a niche, but how successful they were as a result.
Excellent. One other question I have is, what is the best way to go about asking clients for testimonials for LinkedIn or for Instagram or for other?
Text them, email them, call them. It's pretty easy. We had a lot of our customers that comment on our social ads or things like that, we'll send them a private message after. If they've already shown some positivity, it might be very generic and they say, this software rocks, thanks. You're not going to use that as a testimonial, but we'll send them a private message and say, thanks so much. We'd love to hear what result it had for your business and feature you in our marketing or put you on our website. And if you're in a B2B business, so anybody out here that's in B2B, your customers want additional exposure. So you using them as a case study or testimonial is actually amazing for them. They're proud to be on your website. It gives them exposure. So B2B is super easy. Just ask, they'll be over the moon excited. For a B2C type engagement, these are, you likely have so many more customers, thousands of customers, that you can even anonymize the testimonials, and you can pull them straight off Yelp or straight off Google reviews. And you say, Rick S said this, and you're not even saying somebody's last name. They posted it on a public site that's publicly viewable. So yeah, you don't even have to ask those anonymous people.
Excellent. Thank you. So we got just a few minutes left, and what I would like to do is, Chris, just ask you for any closing thoughts as we wrap up this session.
Yeah, closing thoughts are kind of like I said in the wrap up there. This is a gold rush for entrepreneurs and business leaders. This is a time that, if you think about the stock market as an example, people that sold everything in March didn't do so well. People that bought everything in March did amazing last year. And so think about your business and the actions you're taking right now. And if you're doing these exercises for your business and you're refining your business and rebuilding it, then you're investing last March. Like you are the person that is on offense and building something great. Whereas if you don't make the moves, if you're afraid to narrow your niche down, if you're afraid to change your pricing, if you're afraid to hire some virtual assistant, that scarcity thinking will be your ceiling. And so you've got to be willing to make some of these moves and try it. And no, worst case scenario, I can always roll back my pricing. I can always cancel the virtual assistant service. But what can I do to actually get on offense? That's what I would leave you all with.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Thank you all for attending today's session. We appreciate you spending your morning with us. Chris, we definitely appreciate your time and your expertise and your examples from your business ventures. So thank you very much. We just want to remind everybody, we will be back on Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. But until then, everybody have a safe and enjoyable weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you.